David Castle is a 25-year health and fitness industry veteran with an expertise in biomechanics, which is the examination of movement and motion. He is also the co-founder of Industry Aligned, which addresses the physical health of beauty professionals. Today, we're going to hear all about his story, his brand, and his company. And if you remember from previously, we've introduced his partner, and today we get to hear a little bit more about the business and exactly what they're doing. Welcome back to the Hairdresser Strong Show. My name is Robert Hughes, and I'm your host. Today, I'm with David Castle. How you doing today, David?
Doing great, man. Thanks for having me, Big Rob.
Awesome. All right, cool. So first, thanks for coming on the show. It was a pleasure talking with your partner, Jenny, and anybody who didn't watch that episode, it's a great conversation. So I highly recommend you go back and check that out. And so today, David, you're the person with the expertise in the body, and just a little recap for anybody who didn't watch that episode with Jenny. You like the thing that really connected with me is I've had double neck surgery, and I had two discs replaced and one fused in my cervical spine. And Jenny and I were talking about how she was being told she needs to get surgery as well. And hearing her talk about how you were able to help reduce her issues so much that she can move on without surgery. That was like the thing. I was like, okay, we definitely need to like talk about this more because, I have apprentices that they are doing a haircut or color and they're like bent all the way over, they don't know any better because they're new to the industry, but what a great time to learn how to properly like use your body and prevent yourself from ending up in a situation like myself or like the notorious carpal tunnel. So anyway, enough for me. Why don't you tell us a little bit about your story, how you ended up putting together and co-founding Industry Aligned, and yeah.
Yeah, so I've been doing various things in the health and fitness industry, again, health industry and fitness industry separately, for the past 25 years. So for about a quarter century, I've been doing this. Started at a very early age. I'm now 44, so you guys can do the math there. I've worked with people all across the nation, helping them with various pain points, helping them with various strength deficits and seeing them through that, and then just helping them get strong in general, looking at the body in totality and not just looking at it as an isolated incident, looking at how things transgress and how they actually translate through the system, making it more of an integrated system, less of a segmented system. So how I started working with Jenny is we were together for a while. We had met each other about seven-ish years ago. And we had talked about kind of creating a different kind of business structure together. Lo and behold, Jenny woke up one day with some various repetitive stress injuries, and we found out that she had a herniation in her C5, C6, as you had mentioned. So immediately, and I'm sure you understand this too, the amount of pain that is incorporated with that is excruciating and it's debilitating. The potential loss of nerve sensation and facilitation through whatever extremity that it's running through, right or left arm, is also another big trauma that we have to get past and we have to figure out how to deal with, right? So we're having to accommodate multiple things, dealing with pain and the misuse and the non-use of a limb that you should have to have 100% use of overall. So as we kept going from doctor to doctor, and I took my ego out of this in the beginning because I just needed to take care of the person that I cared about. That was my first priority. And I wanted to make sure that I was seeing things clearly. But sometimes when you're too close to a situation, it can give you a misaligned perception of what's going on. So I removed myself from it, and I deferred to many doctors and many surgeons and many physical therapists and many chiropractors. And they said, go ahead and let me know what should be done. Again, surgery was pretty much the diagnosis at that point. They also wanted to, I believe, provide her with multiple cortisone shots to help her deal with the trauma before the surgical intervention was to happen. So in the interim, they allowed her to go to PT. Again, I took my ego aside. 9 weeks later, she was getting worse. And through this, I'm watching the frustration and I'm watching the amount of money that she's shelling out go up and up and up, because a lot of this was out of pocket right? Even though she had insurance, wasn't covered. She actually went to one of the best facilities in the actual world. It's called the Shirley Ryan Ability Lab. It's in downtown Chicago, where we live. So again, I took my ego out of it. She's working with people that are obviously better than me. And I always try to make sure that I'm looking at things from that side. Remove your ego first, even if you're a practitioner. Again, with the amount of experience that I have, let's defer to them and see what multiple opinions what we can glean from those. Again, kind of long story short, I ended up taking over her physical therapy. And we saw massive progressions, of course we would, in a very short duration. Pain was going away. Sensation was increasing. Her ability to stand longer and work longer and gain her strength back was happening at an exponential rate. So this whole time that I took myself out, I should have actually dove in. I should have took action. That actually I hold on myself to this day. Fortunately, we were able to save all of the sensations in her limbs. Fortunately, she did not need any surgery. She didn't need any type of epidural. She didn't need any type of cortisone shots. This was all addressed. There was no pills or medication taken during this time, right? We made sure, even the, I forgot what they prescribed her gabapentin, which is to help with nerve sensation as well. Everything was removed, right? And I knew that this could be potentially the case, but again, I was so close to someone that I cared so much about. I wanted to make sure that I was looking at things from an appropriate angle. From there, we just started to kind of hatch a plan to start to dive into the beauty industry. And I started to spend more time in salons, and I started to spend more time with stylists, and then the beauty industry in general, nail techs, estheticians. And I started to recognize these common issues, these common problems, and these common complaints. And that's what we're here to do. We're here to provide a solution for the beauty industry. And right now we are the only solution that's directly focused on the beauty industry because we feel it's so neglected. And we feel there is a little bit of complacency with the industry, and almost this acceptance is what I've seen going from expo to expo, saying, well, this is just a part of my job. Fortunately, you can take this on yourself. It doesn't have to be a part of your job. You're accepting this. It's willful ignorance, right? It's complacency, it's cognitive dissonance. If we start to take charge, we realize what the body is capable of. Again, I've seen this for 25 years, working with anyone from the ages of 8 to 88. I've seen people progress. I've seen people get stronger. I've seen people gain muscle. I've seen people lose body fat. I've seen people get more intelligent because using your body is a great cognitive exercise as well. So again, that's how we kind of started integrating in the fitness industry. And so far, we've had a lot of positive feedback. And we're getting a lot of, again, I'm getting a lot of these common pain points and postures that I'm able to help beauty professionals with instantly.
Nice. So if anybody who's listening or watching has never had any sort of pain, I actually used to work next to somebody who he's been doing hair longer than me, and he has like arguably one of the worst postures of any hairdresser I've ever seen, and he's got like how he stands, like kind of like with his like this, and then his neck like this, you know, like it hurts. I actually feel pain when I watch him. Like I could not stand there's no way I could stand like that. We had this whole conversation over happy hour one day, and we were talking about it, and he's like, I got no issues, and we even pressed into some of his muscles and couldn't find any knots. And then, but his he said his like forearm and stuff is the only thing that bothers him, which I thought was really interesting because standing like that for so long, all day, I would have just have assumed that he'd have some sort of issues. What can you say about that? How come he can stand that way and doesn't have neck problems, and how come I can't even? I gotta every 5 minutes, not even 5 minutes. I'm constantly checking my posture. Otherwise, I'll be in so much pain by the end of the day.
First off, I commend you for actually having the awareness and the acknowledgement that you need to pull your body up so you're not dealing with shit later on in the day or downstream, right? So one of the reasons that someone like that cannot exhibit pain is, in reality, we all have varying degrees of herniations throughout our discs, all of us. Some of us exhibit pain, some of us don't. Here's the thing with herniations too, they can move and shift because muscles and connective tissues are attached to bones, which again are attached to nerves and are attached to more connective tissues. So layers upon layers of these intrinsic and intricate kind of tie-ins. So for this individual, maybe he's sitting on a bunch of compressed nerves. Maybe there's multiple herniated discs, but he just doesn't exhibit any pain. Here's the deal too with what you had mentioned down his forearm. Maybe there's some radiating trauma coming from his thoracic spine, shooting down the ulnar side of his forearm. We don't know where it's stemming from because I haven't assessed. But everyone has pain. That's a normal human function. It's a normal part of human physiology. I think that a lot of people get freaked out when they feel any type of pain because we're living in this kind of comfortable society where everything has to be soft and plush and the most cozy and the most warm and the most accommodating for our sensibilities, right? It's getting a little bit ridiculous and outstanding. I mean, think about even just, and I'm sure you've heard this argument before, something similar to it. We can order food that we didn't make, sit in our chair. We could literally have that person, we could type in a note that says, would you mind opening that door and set it up for us? They could probably chew it up for us and spit it in our mouth like a baby fucking bird. It's insane the amount of non-work we're doing as human beings, and we try to find ways to make it easier. This is the easiest time that we've ever had in society to live, right? So don't be afraid. And again, this is me kind of offshooting to kind of tie this in. Don't be afraid of pain. Acknowledge pain. It's actually an excellent teacher. It keeps us aware. Like you were saying, you felt something that's uncomfortable. You know it's coming downstream, so you're acknowledging it. If you didn't have that sensation, pardon me, if we didn't have pain, our body would tear at the seams. We wouldn't know our physical limitations. But what's also cool about that is we can extend our physical limitations. You're not just where you are now. You're not just where you're going to be. You're not just where you're going to be from there. You can keep pushing these pain sensations down. You can keep getting these nerves and these sensations either more robust by doing the wrong things or calming and quieting them down by doing the correct things, by strengthening tissue. Because tissue, again, pulls bones and pulls connective tissues. Right? So there's a whole way of thinking about this that I think is a little bit short-sighted, even in my field. And this is where I'm coming into your industry, hoping to offer a little bit of hope, but hoping to offer some solutions that, again, are tangible, that are understandable, because I don't just want people to do the things that I'm telling them to do because they're not invested. I want to educate them. I want to give you 25 years of experience, toss it all on your chest and say, here's what I want you to do with it. Because when you're done with me, I want to see you continuously progress. I love when my clients and patients keep in contact with me later on down the line, saying, I know we don't work together and spend 5 years, but I feel fucking amazing. Thank you. Right? It does nothing for my ego. It does something to see positivity circulate around when there's a lot of negativity around pain and dysfunction.
So what was I going to say? I'm thinking about how, like you said, that the industry is kind of, I don't know if you use the word ignoring it or complacent. And like, it definitely is something that like just coming up in the industry. I mean, I got my first salon job. I was still in high school. So like, I literally grew up in the industry, and it is just like a carpal tunnel, for example, is something that is just expected that you're gonna get. And like there's like little, like we know the exercise, the stretches, and and but other than that, I mean, that's as far as it goes. The neck situation, I look back at pictures of me when I was in my younger days of the industry, and I'm looking at myself. It's a really cool picture, but like my posture, like my neck is like sinking way down as I'm looking. Instead of me lowering my body down, I'm lowering my neck down to see it. And so it definitely is a very common thing. And when I talk to young people about it, they are like, ugh, you just are an old person, and I wonder if some of the complacency comes from young people thinking older people are always just trying to tell them how to do things right. And then there's also this other thing that I don't know if it's still a thing now, but I know when I was coming up, not only was I not thinking about my posture, I was also running my body into the ground by going out and just being out all the time, and falling asleep on the couch and like in weird positions, and cumulative effect. Fast forward to a life of hard living and partying and doing hair, and it definitely. I mean, I'm sure there's some other things that led to my issues, but I definitely believe that that's like definitely part of it. What do you have to say on this idea, on this thought process or line of thinking?
Yeah, I think that you nailed a couple of solid points there for sure, right? I think that to start with the kind of adolescent mentality when it comes to listening to someone older, right? Like, oh, it's not going to happen to me, or maybe they even have these signs and they ignore them, right? They're like, that's not that big of a deal. It's not that big of a deal, right? We live in a state of avoidance all the time. We live in a state again of that willful ignorance and that complacency and just kind of it'll fix itself, it'll figure itself out. Maybe you don't feel as much pain when you're younger, so as you start to age, you start to again think it's going to go away. It went away before. It's just not the reality of things, right? Like you said, there was a cumulative effect, and I think that's great that you kind of put that compounding effect together. Because when I'm addressing people, I like to understand their medical history, their health history, their habitual, just their habits in general, right? What do you do? How do you treat yourself? And that's one of the things that we do with our business is I focus on your internal health as well as your external health. There are various biofeedback markers that I love to understand with that individual. How is your stress? How is your sleep? How is your digestion? Because that can even with bloating, right? When we're thinking about the stomach blowing out from the side, that alters the shape of the spine and the ribs. So that's going to put these facets in a little bit of a different place over time, right? If we have consistent bloating, if we have consistent trauma, not only is that an insult for just something externally, but internally that's not great for digestive health, for brain function, and also for just keeping your tissues strong and robust. Because if we have malabsorption, we're not actually getting the micronutrients and the minerals and the vitamins that are essential to continuously repopulate healthy cells throughout our body in its entirety, right? So there's a whole myriad of factors that go into this. But going back to kind of that complacency, whether you're an adolescent or an adult, and again, people can shoot the messenger on this one. I'm 100% okay with that, right? Because people are like, oh, how dare you say that I don't give a shit, or how dare you say I haven't been proactive. If you hurt, you haven't, and you address something, you looked at these pictures. Maybe it was not understanding, so it wasn't willful ignorance, but maybe it was a matter of I just didn't have enough information at the time. Nowadays, there's absolutely no fucking excuse. There's information everywhere. And while we can get kind of tiraded and bombarded by it, I don't want to hear that either. Find a practitioner that you feel comfortable with. It doesn't have to be me, it could be anyone, but start somewhere. A lot of times people will ask me what books to read or what blogs to read or who should I follow on Instagram. I don't want to tell you. And that people, well, what's wrong with that? One, a lot of the information, I don't mean this in an insulting way, would probably go over most people's heads. Not because I'm highly intelligent, but because this is what I've done for 25 years. So this stuff is my ABCs. It's nothing to me. It's like if I jumped into your industry and be like, you know what, I balayage. That's what I do right then. I do that, and I color correct, by the way, as well, right? There's a stepping stone process. If you're interested in taking care of yourself, and you wanted to start to do things on your own, dig, show effort, right? You'll find something. Dig everywhere. There's gold everywhere. With my mentality towards movement in general, I've done everything. I've been a boxer. I fought Golden Gloves. I fought jiu-jitsu and competed in jiu-jitsu. I did Muay Thai kickboxing. I was a Pilates instructor. I was a yoga practitioner. I do it all, and I do it all to this day. And I do random things like Indian club training, and I bodybuild. I do all of it because I think it all has merit. Movement has merit. If you're stuck in a shape and you recognize that shape as bad, get the fuck out of it. But the caveat to that is, what's wrong with that shape if your strength allows you to maintain it, like your buddy that you were talking about? His body has accommodated that. Now, I'm not saying that's the best way to be at all. What I am saying is his body has now taken shape, and taken strength in that position. So over time, for me or any other practitioner to actually get him into proper alignment, he would feel weak and unstable in that position and exhibit probably more pain until he didn't, right? So there's these varying ends of the spectrum with that as far as that's concerned. Last thing I want to touch on real quick, if you don't mind, is we talked about like how children are just kind of looking at us old folk like, yeah, right, that's never going to happen to me. Screw you. What do you know? Well, I know a few things, just like you know a few things through experience, right? And they don't take that into account. But we went to the Paul Mitchell School out here, and we did a presentation. Right? And I had Jenny. I don't know if you've seen some of the stuff on our page with her in a bodysuit.
Yeah.
Right? Just completely kind of full anatomy suit. That really gave them a good visual and a good understanding. It also kind of dropped their guard a little bit to be a little bit more honest and transparent with what's going on. And let me tell you, brother, when I talked about, hey, does anyone feel any type of nerve tingling, numb hands, when they wake up first thing in the morning? Everyone's raising. and their children, their children. Now there was some older adults in there too, but I'm talking about the young students that haven't even started this job yet. Hey guys, how does your neck feel? How does your low back feel? Oh, when I get up, my low back really hurts. Almost everyone. How are your hips? We addressed almost every joint in that room, and almost everyone had their hand up with almost everything, and it was fucking alarming. Because as a child, you should be made out of rubber. You should be able to have this stress tolerance that exceeds an adult. You haven't had all these consistent and consecutive traumas over time. What we are seeing, and what I'm seeing over time, is people not get better with all the access to information, not get better with a gym on every fucking corner, not get better with a practitioner that teaches you how to breathe, how to sleep, how to eat. There's someone for fucking everything. Everyone's getting weaker because they're putting it on someone else. And here's the reality. While I love to help people, I'm not your solution. I'm the catalyst for you to help you. And that's what I want people to wake up. And again, if that upsets people, like, no, this person helps me. No, they give you a blueprint and they give you a kind of a roadmap and a game plan. You fucking execute. You handle it. It's not on me. And that's a scapegoat mentality too. Like, oh, it didn't work. Dieting doesn't work for me. Fitness doesn't work for me. PT doesn't work for me. And well, I say again, everything is with a grain of salt is what I say, right? PT doesn't work for a lot of people. I've had people come to me for 7 to 10 years of PT straight, and they come to me and I get more results in one session because I look at things and I reverse engineer them. Again, it's not about, I think I'm smarter. I just don't look at the same problem with the same plan of attack. I'm not interested in doing it. Again, I like progression. I don't want to keep you in a continuum of care. How quickly can I make you strong? Because when you get strong and when I educate you to be invested to start to do this on your own, when you come back to me, you're excited to learn more. And then we can just go fucking further. And then all of a sudden it's like, okay, David, what's next? Instead of, I woke up, it's not 100% yet. Like, again, I'm here to help for that. I'm not saying I don't want to hear complaints because I want information, but I also want to heal and I want to help.
I love that. I feel like all that can be translated into teaching people how to cut hair. I mean, there's a lot of parallels there. It's like, well, I don't do men's haircuts. Well, when you dig in, most of the time it's because they suck at them and they don't have a lot of confidence and they want to take more class. Then they choose to like say, well, actually, I really like this, so I'm going to do this thing. And now we call it specializing. So so I just think that like there's so many parallels because like whether or not someone decides to specialize later in their career is one thing, but like when they're learning in the beginning, I'm a proponent of you need to learn like the foundations of everything. Like if I only color and you only cut and we're supposed to do a client together, how can we have a conversation if we don't understand the basics? So like there's reason to kind of have this like holistic approach of everything in general. And I also think that there's like a theme that I would agree with you that we need to like really kind of take head on is that things should be easy because building your craft is not easy. And no matter how many TikTok videos someone watches, they're not going to be able to skip experience. So like at the end of the day, they have to put in the work. It takes time. That's some of the most unpopular things to say on social media is like, it's hard work and it takes time. Like everyone's like, well, I paid $20,000 for my license and now I'm a hairdresser. And it's like, not at our shop. You're not, So yeah, I totally am on the same level with you. I like yes, 100%. So I want to dive into some specific stuff, and take this conversation even further. But I feel like this is a great place to kind of wrap it up. And I'm very curious, like, as we wrap it up here, why don't you tell us a little bit about all the different things that you do to bring this stuff directly to the hairdresser, from social media to in-salon visits, and you mentioned expos. Could you just let us know all the things that you are doing to get this information to people?
Yes, sir. So first, you can follow us at Industry Line on Instagram, and we have a myriad of movements on there where you can just kind of play around. And I'm not being specific in any general sense, right? I want you to think of this kind of like ingredients. Movements are ingredients to a recipe. So I want you to think about you can make a million different things with a million different ingredients, but at the end of the day, we're trying to make something specific. So I want you just to play with movement and understand a little bit more about your body. So that's step number one of how you can find us. Step number two is we do in-person salon visits where we'll actually come and do workshops and we'll work with you one-on-one. We've had a few across the country that have been highly successful. We've had a lot of fun actually going out, and you can actually work with me in person where I'm seeing your environment and I'm making adjustments with you on the fly. I also do Zoom sessions where you can work with me individually and we can work on your specific biomechanics in general. From there, we also have a blog at industryaligned.com. So if you want to sign up for that email blog, go ahead and shoot us an email. We're good to go there. And if you want to work with me individually just for one-on-one coaching or alignment calls, the link is in the bio for that as well. So if you want, the online coaching would be a little bit more weekly instead of the individual Zooms. If you're in the Chicagoland area, I can work with you in person. But yeah, if you also would like to just get on a phone conversation with me and we can kind of figure out where your strengths are, where your weaknesses are, and we can build a foundation out of that. I also offer these alignment calls as well, where we can get on the horn for an hour and a half, and we can discuss what's going on with your nutrition, your sleep, your stress, your movement, and we can get those in order for you as well.
So like if we did one of those calls, you could like help me with like a set of exercises to do or something like that. Is that kind of what you're
100%. We can
yeah.
we'll talk about your pain directly. We can talk about your lifestyle factors because again, that's a big one that gets missed often in the physical therapy world and in that realm. Is they'll see you for about a half an hour, maybe an hour if you're lucky, and maybe you'll get undivided attention, maybe you won't, and then they'll move on to the next. But they're not going to address these other internal health factors that are extremely important in actually making sure that you progress forward and you actually have a healthy lifestyle and not just a healthy moment in time.
Nice. Cool. I love it. All right. Well, if anybody's interested who's listening or watching, please check the description below. There will be information on how you can get in contact. Otherwise, you can just hit them up straight up on Industry Aligned on Instagram, which is also in the description below. All right. Well, thank you so much for taking the time. And I look forward to having you back on the show again soon to dive into this even further.
Yes, sir. Thank you for your time.
All right. See ya.